What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, reviewing today Wargroove. When exactly do you consider a game a fan sequel, and when is it a little bit of a ripoff? This is a question that sat in the back of my mind a lot during the early hours of Wargroove, because this is something that quite obviously follows closely in the footsteps of games that already exist. It's sort of a combination of Fire Emblem and Advanced Wars, classics from the Game Boy Advance, but even still, it manages to do something different. This is a game that is phenomenally fun, and the deeper I got into it, the less I cared about what it's trying to be based on, and more I cared about just trying to win. This game is tough, and actually it tries to be tough. It goes out of its way to murder the heck out of you, but that's part of the reason I like this, is because Wargroove, it is a strategy game for people who love strategy games. So let's just go through a normal match real quick to see what exactly you're getting into. So as you can see, typically you start in one corner of the map with just a couple units and a will to survive. In order to win any level of Wargroove, you need to either capture the enemy base or kill the enemy commander. Now both of these are a lot tougher than you may think, mostly because everybody is trying to defend the heck out of their primary units. In order to achieve victory, you need to try and progress across the map, capturing cities you come across, that way you get more money per turn, and also capturing barracks, which allow you to produce your special units every single match. This basically lets you create more knights, more doggies, that way you can try and explore different areas quick, because doggos are not only good and cute, but also have incredibly good eyesight. Or you can do what I like to do, which is save up all your money and get the giant super units, like these walking castle tanks. Whenever you're playing this game, you need to keep in mind that every single time you move, you need to try and plot things strategically, both offensively and defensively. In turn-based strategy games like this, your entire army goes, and then the entire enemy army goes, meaning that if you are not in a good spot, or you have somebody who goes too far forward, they will be able to easily swarm and overtake you, which means that you need to move together in a big group. You need to try and think about how you can give your people cover fire, or what might be hidden in the trees. This game is incredibly fun, and already I bet you're beginning to notice the fact that it's really tough. I die a lot. I'll fully admit that that's part of the reason I love this though. It's so cool to try and rush into an area, seeing a super unit, trying to slay them, and then inevitably getting killed myself. That's part of the fun. I actually love the fact that this game can be so freaking brutal, because it makes it where when you do end up getting that big win, you feel like such a freaking champion. So as I said earlier, the main thing you're trying to do here is capture the enemy base or kill the enemy leader. So commanders are special units that are on the field. Each army gets one, and they are way tougher than a normal unit. Typically it seems like they're about 6 times stronger, so it makes it where if you really need to, or you get really desperate, you can actually try and hide your commander, try and put him way off in a corner or something, and just put him up on a mountain where he can defend himself very easily. I've actually had times where my commander by himself managed to hold people off on a bridge or something for 6 or 7 turns completely by himself, just because these dudes are so strong if you use them correctly. There's something else about commanders that's really important though, which is their groove. Basically what this is their special ability. By getting a bunch of kills with the commander specifically, you eventually get the ability to do a giant super attack. Now for some people this will do damage, for some people this will heal all nearby units, or for some people it can just super increase your defense to make it where you're nearly invincible for the next couple turns. What's really important though is trying to think critically about how best you can help nearby units, because every single piece on the battlefield is like a chess piece. You need to try and think about its strengths and its weaknesses at any given moment. So let's just talk for a second about the individual units, because all of them have very different abilities. That's kind of something that's very neat about this. So obviously they can move different amounts, like a knight is on a horse so he can run across the entire map very easily, but then there's also stuff like spearmen. Everybody has a different thing that makes them do a critical attack, basically a special stipulation that needs to be achieved for them to do double damage with every single strike. Like the spearmen, if they're standing next to each other, every single time they hit people, even if it's defensively, they will do double damage. Or the archers, if you put your archer somewhere and have them stand in place instead of moving them around, they'll do double damage with every single arrow they shoot. These are nice little touches to try and make you better utilize the strengths of each piece. And I've actually done some very crazy wins because of being able to do things like hide a bunch of archers behind a wall and then just pick people off in a very important canyon. Or at one point I managed to actually corner a huge super boss in a one big section of the map by having a bunch of catapults that just slowly moved in piece by piece to try and make him more and more desperate, that way he'd make mistakes. Now, so far, I've been talking a lot about the story mode and a lot of these cool units, but what's really vital here is that every army is not the same. Throughout the main campaign, you get a chance to see all these different lands and each of the different armies, but what's really cool here is that they actually play different. If you're playing as the undead, you have access to giant vampires who can fly over the map and do some crazy damage. Whereas if you're playing somebody like the forest people, they can actually just grow vines out of the ground to basically create walls to slow you down when you're trying to land a big attack on one of their people. I love all this, and it's really, really neat. I do want to say that there are two small flaws to this game, and things that I did actually notice more than I'd like. The first one being the fact that I do think that it's a little bit cheesy that there's just such weird text. It seems like they're trying to pay homage to the Game Boy Advanced roots, but I wish that there was a way to turn on a normal font. This quirky text is a little bit illegible at times. It's a small gripe, but since you spend so many hours trying to read what people are saying, it does grow to be a little bit annoying. The other small problem I have is that a lot of times in the main story mode, it seems like maps can only be beaten in a particular way. Even though it seems like there's this giant cool campaign going on, it really kind of just implies that you're supposed to beat it in a certain way, which is kind of annoying because in the other modes like arcade, this is arcade mode, and you'll notice it is a perfectly symmetrical map. It really is just the best man winning. You have to perfectly outplay your opponent to achieve victory, and that's awesome. It's so cool to actually go round by round and try and completely decimate your opponent, either by starving their resources or outright crushing them. So it makes it where I definitely enjoyed arcade mode more. But if you do want to try a campaign that's a little bit different, there is actually fan-made content. In this game, you can go online and create your entire individual custom stuff. Custom maps, custom cutscenes, custom storylines. You can make an entire full campaign completely out of your own imagination. That's what this is right here. This is one of the main bad guys and one of the main good guys getting stranded on a desert island and having to fight zombies off together. And it's just so silly and quirky and completely made by fans instead of the creators. That's so insane to me. And part of the reason I love this. It's really a game that lets you express yourself through it. Even when I'm playing online and trying to crush different people around the world, it's so exciting the fact that my army is my weapon. How I choose to play is completely up to me. Like, it's so fun to me to get to just build a bunch of giant units and try and stampede across the entire world, dominating every single thing I can. It is such a thrilling game, and something that feels like a true sequel to games of the past. The last thing I really want to say is that this game can be very easy if you want it to be, and I say this because I think that everybody should pick it up, and I know that some people are probably going to see this gameplay and feel a little bit intimidated. Do not worry. There is a very creative and very original difficulty option where when you go into the settings, you can actually affect the amount of damage you take, so each of your units actually takes more or less damage per hit. You can also increase the amount of money you earn per turn, so you can make it where you earn absolutely no money if you want a giant challenge, or you can make it where every single phase that passes you get $1,000, so you can easily afford all the greatest, strongest units every single time it's your turn. And it basically makes it where you really get a chance to have a lot more forgiveness. Every one of your mistakes isn't badly as punished, and I think that's pretty neat. I'll admit that there were a few missions where I got stuck and I just turned down the difficulty ever so slightly, that way I could progress and see that next cool storyline mission. Okay, so we've heard a lot of good and a little bit of bad, but let's go over the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Wargroove a 9 out of 10. I really love the idea of these new fan sequels, where game developers are trying to make their own final perfect game based on what they grew up with. It feels like it's opening up an all new door to creativity, and honestly, I'm excited to see how it all ends up. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.